Hello everyone, welcome back for some more thrift store finds. Went to the bins and had a fantastic morning. Did a couple of trips to and from the bins as they change out some stuff. And the first trip, I couldn't believe what was there when I first walked in. I loaded up on, I think the first round was 75 pounds worth of books, and they're like $30. Alright. Great start to the day, and tons of DVDs and some VHS and stuff. I'm going to get to that, but first I'm going to go through tons of books, especially because I found immediately, pretty much all together, a giant collection of one of the few types of romance kind of trash read stuff that actually does really well for us on different platforms. Some of the more odd erotic fiction type stuff, there's nothing YouTube appropriate on any of the covers or anything. I looked at that, it's nothing too lewd or anything like that. But one in particular that I always look out for, I'll grab anything that says Alora's Cave, because they're just fascinating, they're interesting, the variety, and it's comical frequently, and sometimes there can be some really good ones in there, and even the cheaper stuff, you lot it up and it goes, and it's just one of those brands that we look for. So tons of these Alora's Cave books. Just to start, Alora's Cave presents In Her Nature, Loon Wolf 4. This Christmas one, which is just hilarious. The 12 Quickies of Christmas, Volume 1, collection of stories, Sarah's Seduction. Let's say Loon Wolf 5, so In Her Soul, so Loon Wolf 4 and 5. This is one of my favorite covers, this like horrible CG art looking, just hilarious. When Wizards Rule. So just tons of these. Primal Heat. Alora's Cavemen, Legendary Tales, Volume 4. Alora's Cavemen, Legendary Tales, Volume 1. Lost in Trek, the definitive guide to the Trek My Quan universe. So I think this is a guide to a series. I'll have to look it up. Anyways, so many of these. Coyote Breeds, Soul Deep, Wicked Sacrifice, Bob's Fall. Just a ton of these. Conception, The Others. And I just kept grabbing them, and I'm like, this is great, and this is the kind of thing that most people are never going to even think to look at in the bins, and that's why, like, just pounds and pounds of books, just so many, and it was nothing. Then just some non-Alora's Cave, a bunch of different variety, but again, the kind of stuff that's not like hardcore and romance, not that kind of stuff, is just not even worth your time. But this is all a selection of ones by this writer, Laura Lee. Just a stack, all from that writer, and they're from different publishers and things, so she's very prominent. A bunch more in that vein. Unconditional, werewolf stuff, Hunter's Prey, Chains, and it just kept going, and it was the right variety of stuff that, especially if you can find a lot of it at once, and it's not just sitting there taking up room, and you can lot things up and you can put them to the different sites. This is one of the best covers, a little beat up, but Gin and Juice, which is really funny. Never Enough. Tons of these. And again, that's the right way to get them. It's just a bunch at once, and so they're not just sitting there taking up any room in your inventory for a long period of time. Just kind of lock them up. And part of that first grouping as well, a ton of these J.R. Ward hardcovers. Just a one series set. Some actual good books here. A few like Hugo Award winner, some actual like science fiction stuff, some Heinlein, Stranger in a Strange Land, always like that cover. Jeffrey Carver, Eternity's End. So a bunch of other books too, which is good. A bunch. One for me, I was so happy that the cover and everything was in great shape. One of these Star Trek Titan books that I actually need for my collection. Just a handful of those left that I'm still looking for. We have Over a Torrent Sea. So that was a cool find, one for us. Some Greg Bear, City at the End of Time. Some more Greg Bear. Some kind of common fiction stuff for Pango. Traitor Among Us Inside, Spy's World, Haunted Mesa. The Last Garden in England. The Forgotten Garden, a whole lot of gardens. A couple of these Sarah Dessen books. few kids books, a couple Animal Arc, actually pretty decent little selection. I have to get these stickers off here of little golden books. Again, I love picking these up, and lots on there, especially a similar theme, a bunch of Disney ones earlier, and then a bunch of Sesame Street. They're almost all Sesame Street, took one or two Disney, but that's always a good thing with these. You can find a bunch that share a theme. Beast Quest books. I don't know what this is. I started reading the back of it, and the cover caught my eye because it made me go, wait, what? It's called Daddy, a novel, and it just has a close-up picture of, I think it's like a little kid's eye with a reflection of a swastika in it. What in the world? And I looked it up and I was like, okay, that's worth grabbing. So just weird, sometimes weird stuff that you find that just at a corner of your eye, you're like, wait, what am I seeing? And you look it up and say, okay, that's worth grabbing. 2 copies actually of The Battle for the Castle, amongst all those kids books. 1 cookbook, Hawaiian style cooking. I love finding weird or just very niche or very specific cooking style cookbooks, especially stuff that's for like maybe a specific event or a specific style, for one that really calls forth an image of a certain era, usually like a 50s or 60s, very specific kind of stuff. So those are fun to look through, and those do well in places like Etsy. This, a Flask of Fields. So this is a W.C. Fields book, Verbal and Visual Gems from the films of W.C. Fields. So any like old school film buffs are gonna find that interesting. I thought that was kind of cool to see. Then getting into some music finds, we have the Covergirls, Show Me, the Daz Band, Bootsy Ultra Wake, Cisco, Return of the Dragon, some mass production. One that the cover is pretty beat up, but at least the record looks fine. That is going to be for me. All in the Family. I love that show. I was like, wait, what am I looking at here? It looks really interesting. I have a combination of the theme song, of course, and then a bunch of different clips from the show. We have on the description on the back here, All in the Family first aired January 12th, 1971, and 2 days later we received our first piece of mail. It was a letter from a woman who had been divorced many years before, when her son was 4 years old. The boy had never seen his father after that. On the night All in the Family debuted, her son was now 32 years old and living in a city 1,200 miles away. The show was on for about 10 minutes when the lady ran to the telephone and almost broke her dialing finger phoning her son. Happily, she reached him and screamed across the miles, "You always wanted to know what your father was like? Well, hurry up and turn on Channel 2. That's really funny. Of course, speaking of Archie Bunker, which she's definitely referring to, in this album, perhaps there's a touch of your father, or neighbor, or me, or you, whatever, whoever, enjoy, by Norman Lear. And so it has, on side 1, these have Those Were the Days, the theme song. We have Why God Made Hands, Sweetie Pie Roger, Transplants, a station wagon filled with nuns, No Ribs, Do You Love Me, God Is Black, VD Day, Archie's Hang Up, Jury Duty, Shove Yours. Just hilarious. It's going to be something that's really funny. It's just kind of a blast from a certain era. And then we have a couple of CDs, the Titanic motion picture soundtrack, Luther Vandross, Diana Ross, all the greatest hits, soundtrack to The Rock, and Jackie Velasquez. A few Blu-rays, and then get into the DVDs and VHS. Sam Rockwell and Moon, Life of Pi, Tom Cruise, Jack Reacher, Never Go Back. The Huntsman, Winter War, is a sequel to Snow White and Huntsman. I remember I saw that first one. I barely remembered. It was not a memorable movie. Never saw the sequel. The Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. For Harry Potter people. VHS, this is an interesting VHS box set. Is a Martial Arts Masters, a Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee collection, as well as Speed Racer, the movie, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, kind of rubber banded together, were a collection of Home Alone VHS, the original classic, Home Alone 2, the horrendous Home Alone 3, the unwatchable and unforgivable Home Alone Taking Back the House, which apparently was supposed to be the pilot for a possible Home Alone TV show. Just unbelievably horrible. Batman Mask of the Phantasm, great. One of the better Batman movies out there. I was a huge fan of Batman the Animated Series in the 90s. This was a joy to watch on VHS. I remember renting this as a kid. It was a really good movie. And so about 90% of that other stuff was in there with the books as I was getting other stuff. It was all that first trip for like 30 bucks out the door, and I was like, holy cow. Waited around for them to do one big changeover, then left after that because it really didn't seem like there was going to be much else coming out later in that day. There's always that kind of time period I found of this one where usually somewhere between 10:30, 11 or so, it kind of stops, or if things change, sometimes some of the stuff they took out at 8:30 in the morning comes back after like lunchtime, so it's just time to leave. But thankfully, one of the things they brought out was a bin that was just full of DVDs. A whole bunch that was kind of junky and scratched up, but then mixed in there, I found 3 huge stacks. So great. And if you've been watching and catching up on all of these, you know that this is normally the location for tons of DVDs. But the past few weeks, like month or so, it really has not been big in that category for some reason. It's been lacking, and then, well, today, again, floodgates open again. It's fantastic. We have Jenna Elfman, Touched. Leon the Professional. It's a 2-disc deluxe edition, which I'm assuming, I've never seen this particular edition, but I'm assuming this is the full cut of the movie, not that American one that they do like butchered. As Good as It Gets. Eulogy. Frozen. The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. I can't believe someone actually said this, but the best in the series, Roger Ebert's Chicago Sun-Times. Did he really say that? Because, what? It's not a terrible movie, but come on. Night at the Museum. Danger Rangers, Medicine Mix-Up. The first Pirates movie. I don't think I've ever grabbed DVDs from this particular location and not grabbed a copy of at least one of those Pirates movies. They must have produced so many of them. The Squid and the Whale. The Creation Adventure Team, a Jurassic Ark mystery. Some kind of... It's weird. Look at it. It's some kind of Christian thing, but with dinosaurs, and it looks like crazy nonsense that someone's going to be like, I remember that as a kid, and grab it. 50 Shades Darker. Baraka. A 2-disc collector's edition of VeggieTales, the movie Jonah. Secretariat. Desperado and Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Those are both pretty good movies. iCarly, Season 1, Volume 1. From Nature, Echo of the Elephants. Bend It Like Beckham. Little Black Book. 007, Tomorrow Never Dies. I've never been a big James Bond fan. This is one of the few that I watched, though, more because there were a lot of people in it that I knew, like Michelle Yeoh. I really like 80s Hong Kong action movies, so it's like that made me want to check it out. So that was a pretty decent movie. Basic. The 15th anniversary edition of Pretty Woman. Time Traveler's Wife. One of my favorite Haley Mills movies, The Trouble with Angels. It's a great one. 28 Days. Gone in 60 Seconds. The Fate of the Furious, one of the Fast and the Furious movies. I don't know. But Easter Classics based on the tales of Beatrix Potter. The Show Me a Story collection. And it's a 4-volume set on that DVD. Polar Express. What Women Want. Rendition. The Hotel in New Hampshire. The Grinch Stole Christmas, the old snapper case version. Left Behind 2. Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Star Wars Rebels. Jurassic World. Cousin Betty. Hereditary. The Miracle Maker. Disney's Lab Rats. Where the Wild Things Are. Confessions. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Stargate. Love that movie. Start of one of my favorite franchises. The Boy Next Door with J-Lo. Between Strangers. The Best of Chappelle's Show, Uncensored, 25 sketches. The Interpreter. Thicker Than Water. I know they mean blood, but just by this image, first thing that came to my mind was horse crap. Joe versus the Volcano. One of the Farscape Starburst editions, Season 3.1. Some of All Fears. Planet of the Apes, the Tim Burton one. The River Wild. A few of these Power Rangers Super Samurai. We have Secret of the Red Ranger and the Super Powered Black Box. Austin Powers, Spy Who Shagged Me, the second one of those. Undercover Brother. Random Hearts. Black Dahlia. This was actually a half-decent movie. I know it doesn't have very good reviews. That's one I might want to watch again. I saw this in theaters. This is actually one of the few that I saw while I was living in Florida. That's why I just vaguely remember. And I've never seen it or thought about it since then. I've read about the actual murder and everything since then. But one actually might want to add to my watch pile to rewatch, because the memories that I have of it, vaguely, again, they probably, apparently didn't leave a huge impression, but I vaguely remember liking it, and then our reviews weren't so great, so I might want to rewatch that one. Unfaithful. Donovan's Reef. Away From Her. Sin City. And then there were a few seasons of shows. Home Improvement, the complete first season, the first release, which had this kind of toolbox opening, and then they re-released it in more of a traditional case design, and then of course the box set and all that stuff. Dollhouse, Season 2. And The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Seasons 1, 2, and 4. So a great second run, good haul, and yeah, this has been a long video because there was I couldn't believe how much I found today. This was a great trip, and it's just going to be a hilarious time just going through all those, Alora's Cave and all that other stuff, and a lot, thankfully, to go through for the store, a couple things to maybe check out and watch, and it was just a fun morning. Hope you guys are having a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.